everyone. Welcome to an introduction on arithmetic sequences. Now, an arithmetic sequence is a pattern of addition or subtraction. So let me start off with an example. Can you guess what the next number in this sequence would be? Take a look at that pattern. 20, 15, 10, 5. You are so right. That common difference is -5. That means that the pattern subtracts 5 every time you move down the sequence. Now, let's first talk about some notation here. That first term is 20. The second term is 15. The third term is 10. The fourth term is 5, and so on. The ... at the end there, that tells you that the sequence is infinite. It goes on forever. Keep subtracting 5 for the rest of time. The notation that we use are subscripts. So when I want to say that the first term is 20, I use the letter A and the subscript 1. If I want to say that the second term is 15, I use a subscript of 2. A subscript of 3 tells me the third term, 4 tells me the fifth term, and so on. There are lots of different variables that are used for random terms in the sequence. I like to use n. I believe Khan Academy uses I. What we're going to do is we're going to write some rules to represent this pattern. The first rule we're going to do is what we call the recursive rule. The recursive rule is a rule that bases a term in the sequence on the term that comes before it. So for example, if I said find the fifth term, you would have to know the fourth term. If I said find the 12th term, you would have to know the 11th term. This is how that gets written. You first write what the first term is. In these situations, you're always going to be given at least one term in the sequence. It's always best to write the first one if you have it. Sometimes you may have the 5th, sometimes you may have the 10th or the 20th. You always have to give a piece of information that you know. So if you know the first term, you want to give that information. We use a sub I or a sub n to represent any term in the sequence. So this formula is going to say, if you want any term in the sequence, take the term that comes before it and subtract 5. So this little subscript, this little a sub I minus 1, that I minus 1 in words says the term that comes before the one you want. So for example, if I said I would like to know a sub 4, you would tell me that's going to be a sub 3 minus 5. This is I, and this is I minus 1. So a sub 4 is going to become 10 minus 5, which means that a sub 4 is 5. Now let's take a look at a different rule. The next rule is what we call the explicit rule. This one is used way more often because it's not necessary for you to know all of the terms in order for you to find one in the sequence. So this says a sub I equals the first term minus or plus whatever the common difference is, I minus 1. Remember that I tells you the term number. So the reason why it's I minus 1 is because you don't need to add or subtract the common difference in order to start off the sequence. The beginning of the sequence is always given to you, and then you use the common difference to create the rest of the sequence. So for example, if I said that I wanted a sub 5, you would say, okay, just take 20 and subtract 5 4 times. So that means that a sub 5 is going to give me 0, which it is up here. Let's just do one more example. What's this pattern here? How am I getting from one term to the next? You're right, you are adding 4 every time. So your common difference is 4. That means that the recursive rule is going to be that the first term is 7, and to get to any term in the sequence, take the term that comes before it and add 4. The explicit rule is going to say any term in the sequence, start at 7 and add 4, I minus 1 times. Make sure to watch Arithmetic Sequences 2 before you start your practice.